Welcome to day 2 of the 2023 NFL Draft. I'm Abby Alonzo, and you're watching the Bengals Breakdown. On today's show, we're going to go over some targets, some guys that the Bengals could go out and grab in rounds 2 and 3, and we're also going to mock rounds 2 and 3. You might love me after this mock. You might absolutely hate me. It doesn't matter because it's not the real thing, right? We'll find out who the Cincinnati Bengals are actually going to take later on today, but we'll play the game. We'll do the guessing thing, pretend that we're the GM. Anyway, before we get to that, I got to throw this out there. We are in a competition to win the AFC North on YouTube, right? Okay. Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, we all have shows here at Chat Sports, and we're trying to see who can gain the most subscribers this week. It's draft week. We normally get a lot of traffic on YouTube. Right now, we are in second place to none other than the Steelers. Blech. And we're not that far ahead of the Ravens. Browns are kind of lagging behind a little bit, but you know how quickly things change during the offseason, just like trades and free agency signing. Things happen in the blink of an eye. I don't want to lose this battle. Please help me out. Prove that we are the best team in the AFC North. Hit the sub button. Let's grow this channel. Also, I get bragging rights to the boys in the office if I win this. Help a girl out. Women in sports, right? Okay. We'll move on. We'll get to the important stuff here. Before we continue on with the draft targets and the mock draft and all, let me break it down. This is what the Bengals need. They have $17.49 million in cap space. They're 8th in the NFL, so they're up there. They've got a good amount of money right now. They gained Orlando Brown, Jermaine Pratt, Cody Ford, Irv Smith, and Nick Scott. We'll talk about some of those guys and why some decisions were made in the mock draft that I did a little bit later. They did lose Jesse Bates, Samaje Perine, Von Bell, and Hayden Hurst. Safety, running back, tight end. This is a perfect mock draft, I think. You guys are going to be fired up. Anyway, they need a tight end, cornerback, safety, and running back. Clearly, these are your big needs here. Keep this in mind as we go into the targets. It is now time to go over those targets. Now, these targets are the best guys still available on the board at different positions. Just options that the Bengals could grab in rounds 2 and 3 today. Remember, there are just 2 rounds today. They only have 2 picks today. They'll have the rest of those picks on day 3, which is tomorrow. We're going to start off with tight ends here. Okay, that is a big need. I know you guys have been yelling at me. Remember, I am not Duke Tobin. I don't actually make the decisions for the Cincinnati Bengals. I just talk about them and I let you guys know what's going on in Cincinnati Bengals world, right? I don't make the decisions, but you guys have been telling me you want a tight end. Well, here are your options. And look at number 1 right here, Michael Mayer. I've seen the comments. I want Michael Mayer, but he's not going to be on the board. I don't think Michael Mayer is going to fall to the Bengals because he's going to go the first day. He didn't. He did not go in round 1. He's still available. We talked about Darnell Washington. He has been mocked to the Bengals on a number of occasions from different analysts. Big guy. He's like 6'7", huge cut, just a tank, to be completely honest. Would be an absolute weapon and an interesting addition to the offense. You've got Sam Laporta, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. Again, these are top tight ends still available on day 2 for the Bengals to go out and get. Switching over to running backs. This is the other position that you guys are yelling at me about in the comment section. You've got Joe Mixon. You don't know where Joe Mixon stands with the organization. He may still be on the roster after the draft. He may not be on the roster after the draft. I guess we will find out if they decide to go the running back route. Either way, probably a good idea to go grab a guy who can run the ball, right? You've got Devin A-Chain, Zach Charbonnet, who's been a little underrated, not talked about as much as I thought he would be a good fit here in Cincinnati. I'm not in Cincinnati. I'm in Dallas, Texas. So not here in Cincinnati, but in Cincinnati. You knew what I meant. Tank Bigsby, we've talked about Tyjae Spears from Tulane. Shout out NOLA. That's the hometown. And Rashawn Johnson, okay? Again, this is a deep running back class. I know we talked about Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. They both went yesterday. Very good running backs. Too bad, so sad they're not Bengals. Get over it. We move on. Who will the Bengals pick at number 60? This is their round 2 pick. Who do you think they're going to go out and get? Will it be a tight end? Will it be a running back? Will it be another position? Speaking of other positions, offensive tackles that the Bengals could grab. This is kind of a little bit, I know people are split on this because you just added Cody Ford and Lael Collins is recovering and Jonah Williams hasn't been traded and you added Orlando Brown. So why do we need an offensive tackle? Because things change so fast, y'all. Because Jonah Williams can be traded and Lael Collins might not make it back by the time he wants to make it back. So you can never have too much depth on the offensive line, to be completely honest. DeJuan Jones, Matthew Bergeron, Tyler Steen, Nick Saldiveri, and Jalen Duncan are the top guys, the top tackles still left on the board that the Bengals could go out and get. Now let's talk about some corners because, again, you lost a bunch of guys in free agency. You watched them walk away. Joey Porter Jr. is still on the board. Yeah, I'm not lying. He is still on the board. This is another guy, along with Michael Mayer, we thought was going to be gone after day 1. Other teams slipped up. Are the Bengals going to capitalize on that? Joey Porter, Clark Phillips, Cam Smith, DJ Turner, Keely Ringo. A lot of these guys, you think that, and I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be very honest. By the time it gets to pick number 60, I'm not sure that some of these guys are still on the board. But as of now, they are available for the Bengals to go out and grab. And if you want to know who the Bengals are going to take at pick number 60, lucky for you, we'll be live. And the cool thing is, we often have the picks before ESPN has the picks. So if you want to show off to your friends, or maybe girls, if you're watching the draft with a whole bunch of guys and you kind of want to do the little impress thing, you can tune into our show and then have the picks before the boys even know about it. Or guys, if you just want to know before all your friends or before you see it on Twitter or whatever else, tune into the show. We'll keep you informed. We'll keep you updated. We'll keep you entertained. That is a promise. Make sure you head to youtube.com/chatsportstv. Join us for the live show. We'll have a good time and it will be golden. Moving on to safeties. You've got Brian Branch, Antonio Johnson, Jartavius Martin, Jair Brown, and Sidney Brown. You lost 2 safeties during the offseason. This is probably a need you should fill pretty soon. Now, I've shown you a lot of the targets, or the top targets still on the board here. It's time to mock draft. These are the guys. These are all the options. Now, granted, these are not the only guys on the board, so don't get mad at me if the Bengals decide to draft Joe Blow from God knows where. He wasn't on your board, Abby. You didn't tell me he was a target today. These are the top guys. These are the likely possibilities, but it's not a sure thing. Without further ado, we're going to get into this mock draft. Don't be mad at me, y'all. I grabbed a corner in the 2nd round. Why did I grab a corner? Because Cam Smith is still on the board. Now, here's the thing about these mock drafts. When you're using a simulator, this is a computer doing everything, right? And we know that these GMs and these coaches and these front offices in the war room like to make crazy decisions, and you can't predict how that's going to go. So when you're mock drafting or mocking, you have to look at who's on the board. And in this case, I really was torn. And I looked at some of my coworkers. I'm like, what would you do? Would you take a running back or a tight end or a corner? What would you do here? Well, who's on the board? I'm like, okay, these guys might still be here later, which we'll get to. Cam Smith probably won't. And a lot of y'all have called for Cam Smith. So I said, this is what the people want. I'm going to give the people what they want. Cam Smith at number 60 in round 2 to the Bengals. Now, I'll be honest with you, his 2021 stats, a little bit better than 2022, but he did play majority nickel in 2022. Interesting enough, though, his PFF grade in 2021 was only a 65.1. In 2022, it was an 88.4. First off, huge jump. Not really sure how that happens considering the stats are better in 2021, but I'm not going to argue with PFF. Again, computers know better. We know that AI is all the rage now, right? I will say Cam Smith is good. He's got good size. He's fluid. He moves very well for his size. His problem is he's grabby. He's probably a little bit better in zone than he is in man, but he can get by in man. He's a very good corner. He just needs to work on being less grabby. If you can get rid of the penalties, the flags, you'd have way better production. He's got good ball skills. That is probably the biggest red flag. That was funny. Red flag is the flags. Moving on. Here we go. I'm ready to be yelled at in the comment section. Tyjae Spears. Oh my gosh, you didn't take a tight end? No, I didn't. Going back to what I said earlier. When you're making these decisions, you can't have it planned out before the draft, okay? You can have an idea. You know what needs you need to fill. You know kind of who you're looking at. You've got a draft board. You've seen draft day where they have a list of prospects, guys they're interested in, and they cross them off as they get drafted or whatever, and you're kind of left with whoever's left, right? That's essentially what we're doing here. When I get to round 3, pick 92, I have a decision. Okay, I filled the corner need. Do I go running back or tight end? Well, who's on the board, Abby? Tyjae Spears is still here. He probably won't be after this round. Some of these tight ends will be. And I will say, you did sign Irv Smith on a 1-year prove-it deal. I'm not saying he's going to show up, but I'm also not saying he's going to blow it. You don't know how that's going to go, but you've got a tight end. If Joe Mixon is cut, if he's not on the roster, you don't have a running back. Remember, Samaje Perine is not a Bengal anymore. So weigh out the need here. You'll have tight ends in the later rounds. You probably should go get a good running back that you know could probably handle a little bit more weight if Mixon is not on the roster. Looking at his 2022 stats, he had 229 carries, 1,500 yards. He averaged 6.9 yards per carry, which is very good, right? Very good. And he had 19 touchdowns. This is a good pick. I talked about him earlier this week. I think there were some injury concerns, but I don't think it's anything that should be too concerning. This is a guy who can, again, 6.9 yards after, or yards per run is insane. That is very good. Or after catch, excuse me. Very good. He's explosive with big plays, and he's got the great production. He has nice cuts in the running. He's got good vision. I mean, if this is a guy you want to bring in to pair with Joe Mixon to kind of just add depth to the running back room if Mixon is still on the roster, or kind of start to take over if he's not, Tyjae Spears could be a guy to do it. I think he'd fit well into the offense. Could use a little bit more help on pass protection, but he's at a point where he can sharpen those tools. It's not, oh, he's not good at pass protection. He won't be good at pass protection. He just needs to be coached up a little bit. Grade the Bengals mock draft. I'm going to be honest, I'm scared for these comments. I really am. I told the guys earlier, I was like, I feel like I'm going to get yelled at. I think I might get yelled at because I didn't take a tight end. But seriously, hear me out. And you're entitled to your opinion. If you hated it and you really thought I should have went with a tight end, give it an F. That is totally okay. It's valid. But my explanation is fill the need. You lost a lot of defense, okay? We filled that need with Cam Smith. Moving on, who was on the board at the time? I had to prioritize the running back position because the skill level was there. It wouldn't be in a later round. Tight end will be there in round 4. I can get a tight end to pair with Irv Smith, who will be on the roster this year because he signed a 1-year deal. Not to mention, the offense could probably get by without a killer tight end, just saying. But that is my explanation as to why this mock draft went the way it did. Again, grade it. If you love it, give it an A. If you hate it, give it an F. Feel free to elaborate. Be nice. As always, we appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you subscribe so we can win the AFC North battle here at Chat Sports. We will keep y'all updated throughout the weekend, throughout the entire NFL draft. We will see y'all soon.